In the winter dark outside Whitehall, the line moved on swollen necks and bad hope. Children, laborers, widows, the visibly sick and the merely desperate waited for a cure no physician could prescribe. Inside, the remedy was not a drug, not a knife, not even a prayer alone. It was the king's hand. For roughly 7 centuries, English and French monarchs claimed a power over scrofula, the tuberculous swelling of the lymph glands known as the king's evil. English tradition pushed the gift back to Edward the Confessor. In France, the claim settled into Capuchin's sacred kingship, then the coronation world of Reims and the cult of Saint Marcoul. This was political theology with symptoms. By the late medieval and early modern periods, the miracle had acquired administration. In Restoration England, sufferers first needed a signed, dated, sealed certificate from their parish, confirming that they had scrofula and had not already been touched. Then they traveled to Whitehall, where they were examined by at least 1 physician and 2 surgeons. If they passed, they received a ticket, usually for a Sunday ceremony. The strange part was not only belief, it was paperwork. The ritual itself was careful and repetitive. After morning prayers, the chaplain read from Mark, "They shall lay their hands on the sick, and they shall recover." Those words were repeated between every healing. As St. John continued, the surgeons presented sufferers one by one. Each knelt. The monarch laid hands on the head or swelling. In England, a touched coin followed, first pennies, then the gold angel, often pierced and hung on a white ribbon around the neck like an official relic. Under Henry VII, the coin bore St. Michael slaying a dragon. The symbolism was not subtle. In France, the drama was older. After consecration at Reims, kings from Louis IX to Louis XI customarily went to Corbeny. There, the monks met them carrying the head of Saint Marcoul. The relic was placed in the king's hands, carried to the high altar, and the next day the touching began. Sacred oil, sacred bones, sacred bloodline. The ruler's body was being presented as an instrument cleared by heaven. No English monarch embraced the rite more aggressively than Charles II after 1660. One register says he touched 6,725 sufferers in his first year back. Other estimates run above 90,000 across his reign, some above 105,000. By 1679, the ceremony was important enough to become broadside propaganda. Charles II enthroned on a raised platform, men, women, and children kneeling up the steps toward him. John Brown, his surgeon in ordinary, published a defense in 1684 and praised the wonders performed by the king's sacred hand. And yet the record never behaves like a clean miracle story. Scrofula could fluctuate. Some cases were misdiagnosed. Some patients improved through rest, food, travel, remission, or sheer expectation. French skeptics said as much, noting that a journey, exercise, and even the money for the road home might do more than sanctity. The most famous counterexample in England is Samuel Johnson, touched by Queen Anne in 1711 when he was still an infant. He was not cured. That failure matters, because the ritual did not die in some clean Enlightenment victory. It weakened first, when monarchy changed shape. William III, a king of parliamentary settlement rather than inherited miracle, did not practice the touch. Anne revived it briefly. George III ended it in England in 1714. One Cambridge historian calls that abandonment a calculated political act. The sacred hand had become less useful than the statute. But the idea lingered. After Charles I was executed in 1649, stories spread that his blood could still heal, even through handkerchiefs dipped in it. In the 1660s, Valentine Greatrakes, an Irish healer known as a stroker, built fame by touching the sick without a crown on his head. And in France, Charles II briefly revived the royal touch in 1825, touching around 120 to 130 people in a last attempt to make monarchy feel holy again. The royal touch survived so long because it offered more than relief. It turned a diseased neck into a referendum on legitimacy. If the swelling went down, God had spoken. If it did not, the ceremony still had its own answer ready. More faith, better timing, another mystery. For centuries, that was enough to keep the line outside the palace door. If you liked what you watched, please like and subscribe. We post interesting and crazy stories from throughout history every Wednesday and Saturday. Yesterday's craziness? Because yesterday was crazy too.